Blog Talk Radio.
Well, hey, folks, I apologize for being 60 seconds late. As usual, I have tons of things to do, and I apologize. I know that sounds wonderful, right? I have tons of things to do. I wish that everyone could say that they have tons of things to do. So, hi, everybody. Second show and the last show of the week. I'm getting back to my normal routine. I'm sure most of you heard that I've only been on air twice in the last 2, 6, 7 months. It's been quite some time. So again, my apologies to everybody. I'm glad to see that you're coming back. I'm glad to hear some positive feedback on the show. I'm glad that you're listening. Frankly, this is probably one of the only highlights of my day today. So, yeah, thanks so much for spending it with me. I won't lie. I'll kind of reiterate the sentiments that I had yesterday when I had gone on air, which is to say that it's so very important nowadays to really make it a point to remind people of who they are, what they mean to you, that you miss them, that you love them. I've been having a few rough days here. I'm sure most people have, and so I'm on air, for one, to remind you, as I said, what I did yesterday, which is everyone is essential, everyone is necessary. I realize that things are extremely dark right now, and I'm the first one to admit I am struggling with a whole lot of things at the moment. However, I'm trying very hard, just as all the rest of us should, to have a rainbow sitting in the backyard here looking at it and thinking it's not going to be like this forever. I'm also very honored to be hosting a nonprofit today. There is nothing more crucial at this point in time. One of the things that we all seem to be missing right now is that ability to be able to connect with one another well, to be able to help each other in a constructive manner. Things have become very ugly and uncomfortable, and we're not relating and not taking care of each other very well. So I'm very, very pleased that I get the opportunity to spotlight Shoes That Fit today. I want to just do a couple quick announcements before I begin. Again, I want to remind everybody this weekend my magazine is coming out. I am so very honored, and once again, huge thank you to my dear friend, Jessica Clare. For those of you that don't know, Jessica is on the show Families of the Mafia. Tonight, actually, they have a double-decker show going on. This would be their 4th and 5th show, their finale being May 14th. They are on both VH1 and MTV, and if memory serves me right, they should be on at 8 o'clock Central Time this evening. Don't quote me, check for sure. But, again, I'm very honored because she is allowing me to do a tribute not only to her family, but her ex-husband passed away. And so for me to be able to spotlight them on my cover and the inside of my magazine means a great deal to me. So, Jessica, thank you so much. Folks, like I said, go ahead and tune in. Again, we should have everything out the door on Sunday. I finally have a printer who just contacted me, today. So, fortunately, we should be able to print the hard copies. www.theartisalive.magazine.com is the actual website for it. Also, want to remind everybody relative to Art is Alive Film Festival, my festival going on in New York City. Yes, I am doing it live. Yes, it's still going on at the end of August. Moreover, I just slashed the prices, so screenwriters, it would be $15, as well as filmmakers are $15. Go to artisalive.filmfestival.weebly.com or to filmfreeway.com and type in Art is Alive Film Festival, and you'll be able to submit there. And again, used films are also $10. So I want to remind you guys about that. I am back on air again next week. Don't quote me when, because apparently the publicists lately are telling me when, so I will let you know my schedule as far as next week goes. The only other thing I wanted to mention, which I didn't get to yesterday, is this. I know that I have a very large audience, which I'm abundantly grateful for on this show. So if you're listening to this now, and if you're in trouble, or if you need help, or if you need someone to speak to, or if you just don't feel right, you can certainly contact me directly at my email. You can do it anonymously. It doesn't matter. You don't have to tell me who you are. I don't need to know. What I need to know is that you're okay. I can be reached directly at CIN4251@gmail.com, or obviously, of course, you can find me on social media. You can message me here at my own radio show, but I just wanted to throw that out there for everybody. So I don't want to keep Amy holding any longer. Let's get on with the show. Amy?
Hi, Cindy.
Hi. So sorry about that. I hate to keep you on hold for like 5 minutes. I had just a couple of quick announcements and things to talk about, and I've been off the air a long time, so I'm trying to kind of get caught back up again into things. So I apologize.
Well, you said some really wonderful things, so it was wonderful to hear.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's so important. I've been very staunch about not doing anything virus-related in my magazine because, we all turn on a TV, we go anywhere on social media, it's every place. And I don't want to be that person. However, I don't want people to think that I'm not paying attention. I think people are very alone right now and very sad, including myself. So I try the best that I can. So we'll see. But we're not talking about me right now. We're talking all about Amy because there's so much to talk about. I have a whole list. I have a laundry list of things. That's how important you are. So I'm going to jump around a little bit because that's what I tend to do on my show. We talk about the personal side of things. We talk about the professional side of things. Do a bunch of different random questions because it's fascinating to me. I want to start with your education because I've only had a handful of people that have gone to the Ivy League. I know you have a BA from Stanford University in history. My father actually majored in history, ironically. So I wanted to ask you, so how did a history major end up being in charity management? Wild, right?
That's a really great question. I have not had a linear life. One of the things I think I've come to appreciate is that not all of us do. So my life is kind of meandered, and a history major is actually just perfect for that, for somebody who's just kind of intellectually curious, who wants to understand people, who wants to understand societies, the way things work. I think my father would have said, if he were still alive, that he's just glad I got a job doing anything with a history major. He really wanted me to go into business, but that was not my passion. My passion was always people and stories and why people do what they do in different cultures. It's just what I loved.
Well, and the interesting part is, too, history can be so very challenging. So the two things that I think about when somebody majors in history, it's usually they're a very logical thinker, and they're very detail-oriented. So would you say that that's a correct assessment for you?
I would say so. I'm very analytical is what I would say. I think I'm a pretty logical person. I love to analyze things. I am detail-oriented, but I really like to have people around me who are better to follow through because I tend to like the big picture and the strategy and the people person. So I know that there are details there and I see them, but I'd rather have somebody else take care of them. So the importance of team.
Absolutely. I get you. Now, I hate to bring up the obvious, but clearly you're in California, which means, my honey is in New York City, so I know that those are kind of some of the big hot spots. So talk to us a bit because people are always wondering. We all watch the news. We all see the updates, but you live there. So can you give us a bird's eye view of you and the husband and your child? How are you handling all of this right now in the area that you're in?
Oh, well, thanks for asking. My husband's actually on the board of our local hospital, Pomona Valley Hospital, so he's seeing firsthand a lot of what's going on. We are, we're in Claremont, which is a college town, so it's like a small city in LA, but we're kind of on the western side. We are not having huge numbers of cases. I think we have about 20 currently going on, but we're all taking it very seriously. The colleges had one of the earlier cases, actually, at one of the colleges, so we've been under stay at home for quite some time now. My daughter's a junior in college, and she is home. Luckily, she didn't get sent home. She had an early spring break, so she was already here when they made the announcement. So we didn't have to deal with pulling her out of her dorm, which I'm really grateful for. That's the upside. The downside is that she has all of her things back in her dorm room. So at some point, we will have to figure out how to move her out. She goes to a school in Ohio, so her classes start at 6 a.m., and she's the only one on the West Coast. So she's doing physics at 6 a.m. in the morning, which I cannot think of anything that just sounds worse to me, but she's doing it. I'm so impressed. And my husband he's more of an introvert than I am, so we laugh that he and his sister were kind of born for this. So he's staying at home. I'm the one who's going out and kind of running most of the errands that need to be done. We are keeping our office. The office is technically closed. We have people go in one at a time, so I'll have my day. Yesterday I was in the office for the day because we are keeping the warehouse open for emergency calls. We weren't expecting very much of those because we work primarily through schools, and schools are closed. I've been amazed at some of these districts and teachers and the lengths they're going to stay connected with their kids. It's just talk about inspiring. So I am still working. Our staff is all working remotely. So it's a weird time. It's just, I've never seen the air so clear in Southern California. The streets are empty. I would say by and large people are wearing masks. So I think we're in a place that people are really following the stay at home, and I think it's because there's, quite a few cases in LA County, and people are really taking this seriously. So I'll be curious
Sure.
to see as we start, lifting some of the stay-at-home, how this all rolls out, because I don't think things are going to really be normal for a while. And, I worry about that professionally with my organization. I worry about that for people's mental health. I worry about some of these kids. We work with really low-income kids. They don't always have the best home situation. So it's just an enormous strain, as you know, and as you were talking about. And I was just so touched when you were talking about everyone being essential, and that's really the heart of what we believe and why we do what we do. So, there are great stories about people really coming together, but it's a pretty tough time, and you really do worry about those who are most vulnerable.
Yeah, it's tough. I do, and I struggle quite a bit. I know that lately I've come to learn that I have to stay away from social media or I'd probably harm someone.
Yeah.
It's frustrating because people are very heated, the term, and I'm just one who's never believed that, only you are essential. So if you're in healthcare, you're essential, the rest of us aren't. I don't believe that mantra. It takes a village really to run a world. I mean, in villages of all sorts of different people and all that stuff. And, faith is important and recognizing our roles is important. In fact, ironically, you have also a Master of Divinity. I thought this was so cool. From a seminary, actually, the Fuller Theological Seminary. So I got to ask about that. Now, this is a first. I've never had anybody with a Master of Divinity. So I want to ask, why did you go to the seminary to get this? And moreover, talk to people a bit about, without getting too spiritual. I'm a very spiritual person, meaning I'm a Catholic, of course. But I guess one of the things is, what did you take away from that experience that you're still using every day or that you still call upon in your daily work?
Oh, that's a great question. So the church became very important to me. I moved around some when I was growing up. We moved from Baltimore to Dallas, and which was a really big kind of culture shock. And then my family was all in Iowa, and I guess I just seen life from a lot of different angles. I spent some time overseas. But when I was in high school, my family went through a really, really difficult time. Really difficult, and things were kind of falling apart around me. And the church became very important to me. I'd been raised in the church, but it was just, it was just kind of something I did. But somehow I guess I found a level of support and acceptance and love that was really important to me. So I kind of carried that with me at Stanford. And after I graduated, I got involved in college ministry. I'd been really involved at Stanford. So I stayed on campus and was doing things and really loved it. Seminary, I think I went because I felt like as a woman, it was really important for me to have that degree and to have that voice. I'm not sure that's always the best reason to go to seminary, to be honest, but that is why I went. I had some fabulous professors, great education, but it was a very mixed experience for me because, again, it can't, religion can be it's like everything else. It can be the biggest unifier, or it can really drive us apart. And I just I was very active. I was president of the student body, and I just saw a lot of fights about whether women should be in ministry and homosexuality and all sorts of other things that just did not fit with my view of God and religion and spirituality. So it was a really mixed time. Intellectually, it was really fulfilling. But when I left, I did not pursue ministry. I actually got into development, of all things. Worked in higher education, and I did some fundraising and kind of took some of the skills that I'd learned, I think, and experiences. So I would say it was a personally really fulfilling time, but it also made me look at faith and what faith, to me, faith should be something that makes the world richer and your life better and actually you a little more humble. And that's not what I always saw in organized religion. So
how neat. That is neat. Like I said, I don't usually come across individuals. I've interviewed nuns, and I think I've done a pastor in my almost 10 years, but I thought to myself, well, how really neat is that? First she went from history, then she went ahead and she did that.
I know.
I'm like, man, it's been interesting. And then on top of which, you've gone country to country. I know that you're big on travel because you've gone all sorts of different places. So I have to ask, in the traveling that you've done, tell us a bit about the most intriguing or interesting place you've ever been to, the most enriching, really, for you.
Well, the most intriguing place, I'll have to say, I don't know if this was the most enriching, so maybe I'll answer them separately, but the most intriguing was when I was in college, I studied overseas. I studied in Italy, which was probably the most enriching. I absolutely adored Italy. I'm a wannabe Italian. I want to talk with my hands. I loved Italy. But we actually had a chance to go to Russia, to Moscow, and what was in Leningrad, while it was still communist. And that was a really eye-opening, that was probably the most instructive experience that I've had. I actually got separated from our group at one point with another friend, and people were not comfortable talking to Americans. We actually only spoke Italian to each other when we were there. Really the hatred at that time towards, this was before the wall came down. It was a really, really tough time, and I guess I'd never really experienced it, that kind of, and not from everybody at all, but a real distrust of Americans, a dislike. It was very disturbing, but very fascinating to me. So that was a very eye-opening experience to really be completely on the outside and in a culture where you don't really understand, you can't really communicate with people, but you feel a lot of negative energy coming towards you. It's very interesting. As opposed to Italy, where everything you do, all you have to do is try to speak Italian, and they just love you and invite you in and feed you. It was just wonderful. Cindy? Cindy? This is Amy.
Amy, hi. I don't know what happened there.
Hi, I don't know what happened.
That was creepy. Okay, but you're here. Okay.
I'm here. I called back on another line. This old line is...
Okay. Hello? Hello? Amy?
Yes.
Hello? Okay, gosh.
God,
I don't know what happened
Amy,
there.
can you hear me? I have no idea what happened.
That was really weird. Normally I am accused ridiculously often of putting my ear too close to the phone, and sometimes that disconnects, but I actually didn't do that this time, so it is a real technical glitch. That's the second time in 10 years it's faked.
Really? Because my phone just kept going, so it looked like it was a lot. I don't know, whatever. So I have no idea what I was saying.
No, we were talking about, and here's irony for you, 2 different guests, 2 days in a row. I said this to the guests yesterday. I'm like, I've waited forever to go to Italy because my partner is Italian. Luckily, I fell in love with an Italian, which I'm lucky because I've always wanted the same thing with I want to be Italian and do the whole thing. I'm obviously not Italian. Yes. But I'm here to tell you I've waited forever to get to Italy, and now you're the second person. So, see, now I feel bad because we're getting
I think the fates are telling you. Yeah, the time is, we're all, anybody can be Italian. It's a frame of mind, I think.
Yeah.
So.
I hear you, but no, we'll make it there eventually. I mean, obviously now is not the time. So better yet that we have the motorcycle. We can at least enjoy that because you can be outside on that. So I'm like, okay, I'm totally down for that whole thing as far as that goes.
Oh, motorcycling through the hills of Tuscany. There's nothing like it.
Oh, my God. I just want to go there right now.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah.
To eventually, of course. Now, the other thing I wanted to ask you on the personal side of things is clearly when you become the CEO of anything, it's very obvious to me that your life becomes very dictated around lots of things. So we talk a lot on this show about balance. How do you maintain a proper balance between people time, meaning your real life job, and, of course, personal time?
Oh, wow. I wish I could say I did. I'm not sure I always do. But here's what I will say. I love my job. I mean, I really love my job. I love what I do. I feel very lucky. I have had kind of a circuitous route in life where I've done a lot of different things. And I feel like this is a job where every piece of my life has kind of come together. Having balance is hard. I would not say I have balance every day. But I do pay attention to myself and what I need. So I found that there are times when I'll just be going for a couple weeks and it's just too much. I've become really good about scheduling some time out for myself. I try to be, I talk to my daughter a lot on the phone. My family is very important to me. And I just build that in where I can. I think you have to know what you need. And for some of us who are extroverts but maybe have a strong introvert side, I think it's really hard to balance those things. I think I come across as an extrovert. In general, I think I am extrovert, but I have to have some introvert time to feed myself. So I've learned that I don't worry about it on a daily basis, but I think I look at it more on a weekly basis of, what do I need? Because sometimes when I need space to myself, I just need a big chunk of it, not just a little piece here or there. So it's it's a struggle to take care of yourself when you're trying to take care of other people, sometimes people who seem to have more needs than you do. So it's hard, but if you don't take care of yourself, an old saying, put your mask on first, you won't be around, physically able to do these things forever. You've got to take care of yourself.
No, I agree with you 150%. And, as you mentioned, it's very hard when you're taking care of so many other people to do self-maintenance, which I think we forget about. I know that you sit as a chairperson on a variety of different charities. So the one question I want to ask about that is, we all look at the word nonprofit and charity in very different ways. I think it means things differently to different people. And in this case, when you talk about serving as a chair, what would you say to people when we talk about helping charities? How that looks now is very different. The demographic, just the whole design of charities and how they do things now compared to 6 months ago is now different. So moving forward, how do you feel that we are best able to help the charity? If you take the financial donation away, what do you think you're really going to need? Because there's going to be new issues moving forward.
Oh, you're right. The landscape is really changing, and I don't think any of us really know. I'm not really going to know the full impact of this year until this fall. We do most of our fundraising in the fall. People think about us around school time, so we've done a fair amount this year already, but right now schools are closed, which makes it harder for us to reach the kids, although we're determined to do that. And as I said, these teachers are really amazing. It's just amazing to see the way they are keeping in touch with their students. But it's, you worry about this with the economy too, and people feeling like they don't have as much, financial wherewithal. I think a lot of people are really skittish and nervous and not knowing when the economy is going to come back. So we live in a kind of a funny world where a lot of our basic, base services for people are handled by the nonprofit world. I mean, I'm watching interview after interview of these food banks with these long, long lines and thinking, boy, isn't charity a funny way, a nonprofit, a funny way to get something as basic as food to people. What it does is it opens up an entrepreneurial door for people to walk into who come up. I think the private sector does a really good job of being creative, but it means that it's very uneven in different communities, and that really concerns me. So I think if people just listen to themselves, there are so many different good causes out there that are making an impact in people's lives. I think you have to really know what your own values are and where you want to invest your time or your money or just your thoughts and prayers. If you look at everything, you're going to be completely overwhelmed because there's a lot going on. But I do really believe that most people want to make a difference somehow, whether it be by volunteering. I think we all want to leave the world feeling like we've made it a better place. So I feel like, for our organization, Shoes That Fit, this is just one really concrete thing you can do to make a difference in a child's life. And it doesn't really take that much money. So I think people need to find things they can do that they feel are meaningful to them.
Well put, very well put. And interestingly enough, most people don't know that Shoes That Fit, your charity, is not government funded, which means obviously you're doing all the groundwork. You were literally probably having to work harder because of the fact that you're not receiving that funding. When the charity was first started, because I know you have the initial founder that started back in 1992, was it always her intention to remain non-government funded, or was this a transition, or how did this come about?
That's a really good question. I think when she started, she did not really set out to start a charity. She set out to help a kid. So, we started with one little child in Pomona. It was a story of it was a little boy who had been in school and his toes had literally been turned under to make him fit in his shoes. And he'd been acting out at school and crying. And she heard about this story about this little boy. And the saddest part of the story is he went to the principal's office and they took out his shoes because he said his feet hurt and they massaged his feet. But they had to put those shoes back on him because you can't be in school without shoes. You have to have shoes on. So when Elodie, who was very feisty, heard this story, she decided she needed to make a difference. So the way she did this was she was working at Harvey Mudd College, and she made put up a bulletin board basically in their what was then their dining hall, and just said, if you want to make a difference in the life of a child today, buy one pair of shoes. And then she had gotten the names of kids at the school who either were missing school or wearing really inappropriate shoes. There are a lot of kids who are sharing shoes with each other or just wearing shoes that, were falling apart. Mm-hmm. So she really started this to help this one kid in this one school. And I don't think she really intended to start a charity per se, but it took off like wildfire. And one of the big secrets is, I don't think people realize, you can look at about any community in the United States, and there is some group doing something like this, usually with used shoes, often I'd say, but trying to address this need because shoes are one of the most expensive items for low-income families to buy. They're just expensive, and they're really important to a kid's sense of self-esteem. So I think what happened, it got featured in Parade magazine, and it just took off, and it became kind of this volunteer-driven organization. I don't think they really had any thoughts about going for government funding at that point. I think they were kind of riding a wave. What I would say at this point is to do government funding, I'd say two things. One is it tends to not, the government funding tends to not pay all of your costs. So it's an enormous amount of work. So we would really have to put together a whole department of staff, and we have a very low overhead. So to take that on, knowing that it's not going to cover all of the costs, didn't really make financial sense to us. And what I have found is our donors love it. They really like the fact that we are just financed by private sources, by people, by individuals. And our model is we try to help people. We give people an opportunity to help kids in their own communities. So people know that the money is staying right in their own communities, going to kids in their own communities, so that people can invest in their own community's future, which I think is our kids.
Absolutely. It's interesting you're talking about kids and schools and in terms of their shoes being so important, and all I'm thinking about right now is my beautiful children and thinking I have two teenagers. And ironically, neither one of them care. They're like, oh, it's $10, $15, just buy whatever, which is shocking, right? Because the normal child is what you're talking about, which is they love what's on their feet. They want it to be nice and whatever have you. So I'm like, oh, my gosh, look at that. I know, of course, that the product that you offer is for school-age children around the country. So has it always been isolated from, like, let's say, grade to grade, or have you actually done college, et cetera? It was hard for me to see or determine if you've branched out beyond that or for a primary basis, just school-age children.
Yeah, we do K through 12, I'd say, so through high school. So, and we're actually getting to some pre-K. So it's really school-based because we want kids to be able to learn and be in school, to the point with your kids. I think that's great. We find with the kids we work with, most kids just want to fit in. It's important to them to feel like they belong somehow. So if they're wearing shoes that just don't fit in, there's a lot of bullying and things. So we do focus really on, I'd say, school age. So anything from pre-K up through high school.
Gotcha. And I'm curious to ask this. This is one of the 5,000 things that I find interesting. I love the way you talk about how shoes can improve not just self-image or self-esteem, but school attendance. As a mother, I've never thought of that. I know that sounds stupid because I've been a mom forever, but seriously, have you found talk to me a bit about that, because I would have never thought of that, honestly. It's not a parallel, you know what I mean, to me?
Yeah, it's interesting. So we survey the schools and the teachers that we work with every year to find out about the impact of shoes on their kids. And over 40% of them talk about a significant increase in attendance. We've got over 7 million kids in the United States who are missing 15 more days, 15 or more days of school a year. We've got a serious absenteeism problem. And we have found, I actually worked with a police officer in Montana who talked about going out to a family that had, I think they had 4 kids. Trying to remember, but there was just a horrible truancy problem. These kids were all missing a lot of school. So he went out and was going to, kind of bust the family. I mean, he was upset about this, his partner, and he got there, and the mom answered the door, and she was barefoot. And that kind of noticed his attention, and he went, and the kids were there. They had 3 pairs of shoes for the entire family. That's what they had.
Oh my God!
So the kids were rotating who went to school. He was so taken aback about that, and he felt, he contacted us, and we were able to get shoes. But the things that kids go through, I think most of us don't see, and I think when people don't fit in, I mean, we help kids in my own community. Claremont's not thought of as a low-income community, but we provided over 600 pairs of shoes last year alone. kids try to hide. They just try to kind of fade into the background. They will miss school. We had one little boy who was going to school in his sister's pink jelly shoes, and he'd been bullied for the longest time. So he was literally hiding in the bushes one day when the principal literally found him and called us, and we got him shoes. That principal told us that child never missed another day of school that year.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, kids are people, and they're sensitive, and not fitting in is really painful. They don't have it's painful for any of us, but especially for a child.
Right.
It can really do a number on you to feel bullied and teased and like you're other somehow. And shoes are just such a concrete way you can make an impact in a kid's life. So we're amazed at the increase in attendance, better behavior, being more active, participating like with classmates, kind of stepping in. But the number one things the teachers say, and we took this off the survey for a while because it was, how do you evaluate an increase in self-esteem? So we weren't even putting that in, and people would write that in. That was the number one thing. You could just tell these kids felt better about themselves and were more willing to be out there. So I think it's just such a basic thing you can do for a child.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Or young adult, I should say. We also had a high school boy, actually, who they came to us. He was, this is the other side of the coin. He was very large. He had a size 15 foot. The parents could not find. Once you get over 14, it's really hard to find shoes, and they become very, very expensive. We've had to go to NBA players before to get. We have some NBA players who just send us their shoes in 15, 16, 17. We even have a size 18 in the warehouse. Find shoes for him, so he was being homeschooled. And I don't think very effectively. It just was not working well. So we were able to get him a pair of shoes. So the reason people, don't have shoes are all sorts of reasons, but it's just a basic necessity that means a lot to kids.
Well, and you were talking a bit about, I want to step back and discuss that just a wee bit, which is, I'm guessing a lot of determining what needs and how to best fill those has to come down to some sort of psychological thinking or consultation. I assume that there's a psychology to this and trying to figure out how to maneuver within each, you're active in 48 states now. So clearly each home, each case is different. I assume there's a psychology to this in part, or am I mistaken?
Yeah, there are two ways. No, you're not mistaken, but there are two ways I would answer that. Is one, it's the teachers in the schools who work out who identify the kids most in need. So they're the ones who we rely on them. They know, most of them know the family situations. They know kids who really are lacking and need things. But the other thing I'd say is we're very, back to your point about funding, we're very donor driven. And when I said that we help people helping their own communities, there's some communities where we have, great supporters, maybe a big corporate supporter. Nordstrom's one of our largest sponsor, and they help kids in every community that they have a store. So we're able to, it can be anywhere from 15 kids to 100 kids, depending on the size of the school. But because we're donor-driven, it means we're not everywhere because we need to have a donor to sponsor the delivery. So that's kind of my job, is to get out there and find people who want to invest in kids in their own community. I'm really proud that we helped 127,000 kids last year, but the need is so enormous. We have about 16 million kids living in poverty. It's just enormous. So we're really on a mission to make sure that no child in America has to miss school or be bullied because of wearing inappropriate shoes. And for $25, $30 a kid, we can give them shoes and socks and make sure that they feel good about themselves. And our donors just love it. And I think they like knowing that they're making a concrete difference in their own community. We don't require it. The only thing we ask is we do ask the kids to write thank you notes. We think that's good for them, and then we pass those straight on to whoever sponsors the delivery, and the things they write will break your heart. They'll crack you up. They're so creative, but it's really wonderful to hear kids talking about everything from, being able to run faster than a cheetah and jump higher than this to, I've really felt bad because my mom couldn't afford to buy me shoes, and, she was so happy. It makes a big difference to parents who, as a parent, you want to give your kids everything they need. And when you can't, it doesn't feel good. So we really, I think, are a support to schools and to families.
You bet, yeah. Now, you had spoken a bit about this, and I know that you, of course, pair businesses and volunteers with the schools to try to determine needs, et cetera. So let's say, for instance, have you ever had unsolicited, meaning that you find out about families or one outside of the norm of business, let's say, where there's a need? I guess maybe if you would, tell us the process of how someone or a school or a number of people who are interested in getting your services, how do they go about that?
Well, we do sometimes. We do whatever we can to help as many people as we can. But we have a waiting list of schools, and we're pretty proactive in actually trying to find sponsors for those schools. So would people contact us if we don't have a sponsor? We will actually talk to them about their communities and try to figure out if there are places we can go to that, might be willing to help some of their kids. We do have an emergency warehouse in Southern California. And in that, we actually, I love the warehouse. I wish we had one in every city in the United States. That's something I'd really love my legacy to be, is to expand that, because then schools can come to us whenever they need on an emergency basis and get whatever shoes they need, whether it's somebody's house burned down and they know the family has nothing, or somebody just transferred, because kids, are, especially in lower income families, there tends to be a lot of churn and people moving from place to place. So, if I set up a delivery with a company or with, a family, maybe they're doing it once a year, but then you have kids who come in later, who have transferred from another school, who may, have significant needs. So the warehouse is great because we can help kids that way, and we're able to accept donations of shoes from companies or from individuals who have, they've got to be new. We only do new shoes, but we can distribute them out that way. So I think we're pretty nimble. We really try to be as flexible as possible and not stand too much on principle. We don't work directly with families. And part of that is, and this is something I think our supporters really love, is they know the shoes are going to the kids who need them most. So we have either a school or other nonprofits. We've worked with shelter, domestic violence shelters and kitchens and different things. But they are the ones who tell us about the families most in need. And they can come to us anytime.
You betcha. And I like the fact that you highlighted the obvious, which is, A, of course, these shoes are not used, so clearly people know that they're coming, new to them, obviously. Second of all, I like the fact that you utilize a variety of different ways to help to fund the organization. For instance, I didn't know that you could start a local group. I'd like to talk a bit about that, because I bet that's something people have more time right now, and they're thinking to themselves, how can we help, because everybody's going back to school eventually. How do you go about setting up a group somewhere outside of California?
Oh, just call our office. Call Shoes That Fit, or go to www.shoesthatfit.org. We've got a little form you could fill out. We'll reach out to you and help you set it up. It really is not that hard. We contact the schools. We get them onboarded. They have measuring tools. We have a whole kit we can send out to them and we find that our volunteers love it. Our volunteers stay with us for years, and I think it is just so meaningful for them, I think, to know that they're making a difference in their community. And when they are raising the shoes, they usually, bring the shoes to the schools themselves. They can, we try to keep it very confidential for the kids. Some of our thank you notes we've gotten back, the kids think that the teachers have actually bought them shoes. I think that's pretty cool. But the volunteers will go in and bring the shoes to the school, and it gives them a chance to talk to the principal or to really see what's going on in schools, because I don't think most of us really know that much about our education system. And it really, we're just connecting. I think we're really connectors. Just connecting people. And once we have a child measured, I don't care if I have to mail shoes. We're going to make sure that child has a pair of shoes that fit them. Because we really, here's the secret to Shoes That Fit. We're not about shoes. We're about the kids. Yes. It's really about the kids. And everything we want to do, we want to invest in these kids, because I'm telling you, Cindy, these kids are our future, and they need to know that they matter. I think that's why I was so struck by what you said at the very beginning, that they are essential. I mean, we're counting on them. This world we're living in right now is troubled, and we really need these kids, and they need to know that they matter. There. See, my preacher side has come out. I'm sorry. That's the seminary side.
You know what? There's
there's
absolutely nothing wrong with it. Yeah, well, what can I say? I tend to do that. I get people to cry, get people to open up. I mean, it's all about lots of things on this show. But there's nothing wrong with that. Being riled up in a good way, I think, I will be the first one to tell you I am a journalist. Obviously, I've been a journalist for a long, long time. And so most of us journalists that are told that we do a wonderful job are extremely passionate and very strong-willed, and so I have very strong opinions. So I take a lot of heat for my personal opinions on things, and so I find that the more I preach about things, the more riled up I get, the more change is effective. You know what I mean? You make your stance, and usually if you're parlaying or you're literally I'm very strong in my opinion about making change and a positive change. And if you get all riled up about that, there's nothing wrong with that. And even if you have to preach or you have to, go outside of your comfort box, I think that's huge.
Yeah.
I see, like, for instance, you've got your local group. You've got a store, so they've got shirts and note cards and sweatshirts and mugs and stickers and buttons. So you've got that going on. You could name them in your will, believe it or not, although some of us may not have life insurance after all this. But if you want to, you absolutely could. You could become a corporate sponsor. I know for a fact. I mean, you mentioned Nordstrom. You've got Enterprise Rent-A-Car, the LA Dodgers Foundation. You've had San Antonio Spurs. Corporate sponsorship, how I'm guessing now it's going to be a little tougher. Or do you have room for more corporate sponsors at this point? Or are you kind of at that point you've been around long enough where you're fine?
Oh, no. We're, as I said, there are so many more kids who need help. So this is what's been hard for us about this time, although we have not slowed down at all, but we're in a real growth trajectory, and we're looking for many, many more sponsors. We've got some great relationships going on. I think this is going to be a tough time for corporate America. So, we want to listen. We want to hear. But what we know from our corporate sponsors is they love the opportunity to go see these kids. So most of them, not all of them, but many of them will adopt entire schools in very low-income areas. And then it's just a big party. So with the Dodgers, and we're about to launch something with actually Clayton Kershaw, which if you're not a baseball fan, you may not know, but he's one of the very, very successful Dodgers. To help kids and to have an athlete or these teams show up and talk to these kids and then get down on the floor and help them put on their shoes and help them tie the shoes. I don't want to overstate it, but it's a life changer for some of these kids. I mean, they are on cloud nine. They just feel so important. And a lot of these kids haven't felt very important or very invested in. So we just love that. The Nordstrom employees do a lot of smaller deliveries, but they always also do some large school deliveries. And it's just great to have some of their team members come out. It's really a bonding experience for the corporate. And we find that they come back. They want to do it again because they feel like they're really investing in their world, and they're seeing a slice of the world that maybe they haven't really noticed. We all tend to be a little boxed up into our, groups of people who look like us. And it's really energizing to step out, I think, and make a difference in someone's life.
Absolutely. Oh, you betcha.
So, yes,
and
to answer your question, yes, we would love more sponsors.
There you go. So if you're listening and you have a lot of money right now, you just need to go ahead and call Amy, like, after I get off the phone with her and say, I have a lot of money to give you. I might happen,
well, that would be great. But you know what? A little
money.
money, too. We've got a lot of our donors give us $10 a month maybe, or a $25 donation. It doesn't have to be huge. It needs to be something that makes you feel good about yourself, that this is something I'm doing that I really feel good about.
Gotcha. And I want to address this because people that listen to my show, unless you're super familiar with this, you wouldn't know this. You, through Charity Navigator, had a 4-star rating, and that's important when it comes to nonprofit. Most people don't understand why in the rating system. So talk a bit about why this is important and so significant to you.
Well, nonprofits, and this is hard for people to understand, but nonprofits are businesses. We are a small business. We don't take money out of it to profit from it. That's why it's called nonprofit. It's really it's a tax status. It's a business status, but we're social enterprises. But we I think Shoes That Fit is run, if I do say so myself, we are run extremely efficiently. It's very important to us to have a 4-star to say that we're financially doing what we should be doing, that we're well managed, we're well run. You can have faith that your money is going to the children. If you look at our audits, over close to 95% of everything we do goes directly to the kids. I mean, we really are about the kids. So I think it's important for people to know that their money, people work hard for their money, and we want them to know that it's being used effectively. So I'm always happy to talk to people about our financials, about our structure, about our board, because to be honest, you can have the best intention in the world, but if you're not well run and not well managed, you're not going to have an impact. And we will have an impact.
Oh, absolutely. You're having a sizable impact, as you mentioned, 127,000 just in 2018, 2019, being active in 48 states. Most oftentimes when I deal with charities, they're not all over the place. Oftentimes it's circulated to one area, one place, etc. And so you branched out quite a bit. I can also attest, now get this, you've been named the California Nonprofit of the Year by the California Assembly in 2017, and in the same year, you were called Claremont's Community Hero. Wow. I talk a lot about this, so I got to say this. I just made this comment the other day, but I'm going to say this publicly again. Just so you folks know, and you should probably hear this too, Amy, although I'm guessing you know this already. There's a difference between what you see in society and what people actually think. So I'm a real live person who's a media person, so I'm going to say this to everyone. I'm just going to stop the interview for 3 seconds because it pertains. You were Claremont's Community Hero. So just so everyone knows, the look of a hero today is not just on the Dove commercial when they're working in a healthcare facility. The look of a hero today is someone who's living at home with absolutely nothing to live on. A child in poverty, someone who is in a domestic situation, someone who's an inch away from dying by their own hand, someone who's living with mental health, someone who survived the virus, someone who gets up every day anxious and depressed. So my hero, you need to know that. Society does not name heroes. You name heroes. That's just my take. Although you happen to be lucky enough to be a hero. Well, it's true, though. I mean, why lie about it? I posted it up, and then you know what I got? You're evil, you're terrible. And I'm like, I'm over it. You know what? That's my take. That's my definition. My definition of celebrity isn't what everyone does. Everyone's a celebrity on my show. Yeah. But, call Idris Elba. I'm sure you disagree. But seriously, if you entertain or educate or inspire me or motivate me, you're a celebrity. And I can say that. My show, my rules. My show, so you're a hero. My show, you're essential. So I just thought it's important everybody hears that. But you weren't actually named the community hero. So tell me why you believe that Claremont determined that you were a hero. Do you think that's accurate? Would you own that title? It's tough, isn't it? I know.
I know. I don't think I'd call myself a hero. It was a sweet thing they did. They do it every year. But I think a little bit more like you. I think the teachers are the role. I'm a facilitator. The teachers are the ones who are working with these kids day in and day out. The donors are the ones who are opening their wallets and saying, you know what, I want to make a difference in someone's life. So I enjoy what I do. I'm not sacrificing my life. I don't know. I'm a hero. More than anybody else. I think, to your point, I look at what some of these kids we work with, what they are living through and the joy you see on their face in the midst of some really difficult circumstances. Some of these schools are tough. Let me tell you, I've been in some really rough areas and some rough schools with some kids with some real attitude. But you see the spirit in their eyes. I love that. There are many people who overcome circumstances and make a difference. To me, it's really about making a difference in someone's life. So I feel happy that I have a job that I can help facilitate that. I guess that's what I would say.
Interesting that you said all of that because you kind of described what a hero is without actually claiming that title. Interesting. I do the same thing all the time, so I get it. But that's a huge... That's a huge testament. I think, I won't lie to you. I say this all the time publicly. The reason that my partner is so beholden to me and so beloved to me is his amazing humility. He has no comprehension a lot of times of how incredible he is. Some of the best people that I know personally, business-wise or otherwise, are those that really have no comprehension of just what they do, how many lives they touch. In fact, right now you're currently working with food banks and shelters. tell the people a bit about your work now, meaning obviously the spectrum has changed a bit, the look of things, etc. You've stepped up a bit, obviously, because you saw a need and you're filling a need. So tell us a bit more about what you're doing right now, since, of course, the schools are closed and you're now partnered with these folks.
Yeah, so, a couple things. The landscape has changed. So in some ways it's slowed us down, but we're putting a lot of work into looking at the fall because we do not know what the fall is going to look like. And we know that needs like this don't go away. In fact, they build up because it just gets postponed. So we actually are just having a meeting about this morning. Don't know what's going to happen with schools. I don't think any of us really know how this is going to look. We right now have been focusing on the emergency requests we're getting. We've done some deliveries, I think, for Jordan Mission we've worked with and some other places just to reach kids as we can. Wondering if we need to change some of our practices. I mean, we love the way our program has worked in the past, but the world's changing. The way we work is we have, teachers or school administrators or volunteers go in and measure the child's feet. Well, with social distancing, it's that kind of intimate contact is something that is being limited. So we're really, wondering if we need to do deliveries in a different way. These kids are going to need shoes probably more now than ever. We're anticipating a huge increase in requests as families. I mean, the unemployment rate has been soaring, and these are families who don't, many of whom don't have savings, so things are just falling by the wayside, and food has got to be their first priority. I mean, it has to. So there's just not a lot of room for other things like shoes. So we are looking at other creative ways and talking to some of our schools. We've been talking to the schools we work with because they still are working, even if they aren't letting kids on campus and teaching, and we've had some really great responses. I mean, we've had some of them get really choked up and said, oh, my gosh, this is the first good news that we've had in over a month, because we're gearing up with Nordstrom. Nordstrom is moving forward with their back-to-school program. We're going to help 25,000 kids this fall. But we know the demand's going to be much, much larger. So we're gearing up for that. A lot of it is planning and then trying to keep our warehouse open as we can and trying to keep it stocked. Some of our suppliers have stopped shipping shoes. They were shut down with all of this as well. So we're still, looking for shoes and sourcing them as we can. People donate to us, which is great, but a lot of them are, that's, when people donate, that's what they're helping me do, is find shoes at the best prices I can, good quality shoes. So it's an interesting time. It's like do you ever just feel like it's a big puzzle and we're just trying to figure out? Feels like an end piece is missing right now.
Well, it feels, what's interesting is on one side of the fence, it feels like we're all of a sudden all willing to help so much more. Not that people weren't before, but there's a calling and an awareness that wasn't there before. So on one side of the fence, that's wonderful. On the other side of the fence, I don't think I've ever seen as much ugliness in my entire life. I've never, ever witnessed so much hatred and anger, and it's a very challenging thank God for the charities and the warm and the fuzzy and the people, it really is in a lot of ways, as people call it, an awakening of sorts. I can tell you that I appreciated everyone in my life before, and I try very hard. Now I'm stepping it up even more than I did before. I'm making sure that I am constantly reminding people what I think, checking on them, doing that more so. So those are all positive things. Our hope is that clearly the people that are stuck in situations, the people you're helping, don't get to a point where they become so desperate or so in dire need or depressed, things get even worse. It breaks my heart to think about this, I mean, I just said this the other night, the child that took his life the other night was the same child who is the same age as my own son, 15 years old, not even
Wow.
out of high school, will never live again, and
You're
he's
too young
I didn't see a future.
Yeah.
I know he couldn't see a future, could not see any hope. He was completely isolated, couldn't handle it anymore. And I'm like, it's just devastating. To me, that is devastating. And it's been an awful time lately, let me tell you. And the fact of the matter is, just partnering with these sorts of people, undoubtedly the children are as affected by this as we are, I think. I mean, obviously the adults are more of this physically, but mentally and other things, it's just as hard, I think, in everybody. Oh, sorry, I'm getting on my soapbox again. I did have an intriguing question for you, though, because, again, I couldn't see this based on my research. Have you ever partnered with, or would you, or has there been discussions about partnering with designers to create a certain line of shoes and kind of branch things out, make it a little more exciting or enticing?
Well, that's a really interesting question, and we have actually talked to some celebrities about that who have been interested. In a large scale matter, we really haven't wanted to design our shoe because the whole point of our program is about having kids fit in. So one of the things, we actually had a company who offered to manufacture a line, but I thought, well, then everybody knows who that Shoes That Fit kid is because they're wearing the Shoes That Fit shoe. But in terms of having like a really creative line or something fun, we did have Vans do a donation. We worked with an organization that had a lot of artists involved. It was actually called Sneakertopia here in LA, and the kids were able to design, kind of draw in and design their own shoes, which, being not an artist, I thought, oh my gosh, I would have ruined my shoes. But these kids made some amazing shoes. So we do look for different ways. And we tend to be pretty flexible. So when people want to do things a little different, I always feel like people know their communities better than I do. They know their kids. They know what's in with their group. So we are pretty flexible about things like that. But we haven't really manufactured our own shoe because we really don't want, we want these kids to have shoes that help them fit in.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and the other thing, too, is I couldn't help but think about that because I'm like, it's school-age kids, and sometimes that does matter, how they look, the way they walk around, that, again, with the self-image thing and feeling better about themselves, and, all of that plays a part into it, of course. Also, I wanted to ask before I forgot, apparently you are way cooler than me because people are always talking about, oh, Cindy, you do all this fun stuff. I want to know how to get into People Magazine, Huffington Post, CNN, Morning Express. Please tell me how I can be part of the cool kid group because Cindy's done none of that. And I'm 50 and getting no younger, so wondering, how do I get in the cool kid group? Cool kids get to be.
Well,
that's awesome.
Start a chapter and I'll take you on with me. Not that I'm on the air all the time, but we have had some great exposure, and I think it's from people who have heard. I mean, we did this interview recently when Clayton Kershaw decided he's going to help 8,000 kids. So I'm riding on the coattails of the wonderful people that I work with who are getting the word out and are doing really great things. And to me, what's exciting about that is whenever we get some publicity or, you doing this podcast with me, we find more people who are interested either in making a donation, whether it's large or small, and starting a chapter in their hometown. I know somebody, yesterday I was talking to somebody and they said, you know what, I know one of the execs at Apple, you really need an app where, you can just kind of scan the foot, which is something that we've talked about for some time, but it's, I'm not a technological person. Those are expensive things, and who knows if anything will ever come out of this. But it's just, you get the word out, people realize there's a problem, and I'm just amazed at people's creativity. So to your earlier point, I think it's the best of times and the worst of times. I mean, it's both. People are coming together, but you're also seeing, and it's not just this pandemic. It's been like this for a while. The rich have gotten richer and the poor have gotten poorer, and we all need to come together. And for me, it's about the kids because they are our future. They, these kids can really make a difference because, we've done some things as a society that we've done some wonderful things, but we've had some big problems. So I just love seeing the ingenuity of people coming in and their eyes lighting up and going, you know what, I think I can help you with this. I know somebody at Skechers, maybe they'll donate this. I love that. It's all about connecting and seeing what we can bring together to help people who need something. And let's face it, we all hit points in our lives where we need something. None of us is invincible. We all need each other. This is one way you can help kids now. You may need them to help you later on. They may be your doctor. They may be your next president. They may be making the next whatever discovery it is. We all need each other.
Absolutely. I would agree 100%. I think people need to remember that more, too. And I think it, sure, it shines in these more darker times, obviously, because we have more time to reflect and think on it. But these are the sorts of things you need to remember all year round. I'm just so blessed.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm so happy that I came back to radio. It's been gone too long. I've had my magazine. This month, again, I get to be able to do something that most people can't, which is awesome. So I'm glad that I'm using my medium for positive and good points and spotlighting people who are well worth it, of course. I guess my last question for you really is for the remainder of 2020. I know it's tough to say right now, but as far as you and Shoes That Fit, where are you headed, or any big events or anything coming up outside of the obvious that we want people to know about?
Oh, thanks for asking that. I would say, the biggest thing we have coming up is in August. We're launching our back to school initiative, and that's going to be about 25,000 children being helped through Nordstrom. So any of your listeners, starting, I think it's August 6th, you can go into any Nordstrom Rack. You can go online and buy a $10 giving card. And they're selling them $10. Two cards basically gives a child a pair of shoes. So what I see is one card buys one shoe. And we're partnering this year with Nike. So Nike is actually providing those shoes. Every penny goes directly to purchasing shoes for these kids and delivering them. So they're getting, for $20, they're getting a brand new pair of Nikes in their size. So we're really excited about that. We did have a big fundraising event coming up in November, but we're not sure we're going to go forward with that because of all the social distancing and concerns about perhaps the virus coming back. We have our ears to the ground, but some of those things I think are a little bit up in the air, but we are excited about this new partnership with Clayton Kershaw. He's helping 4,000 kids in LA and 4,000 kids in his home in Dallas. He actually went to the same high school I did, which I didn't realize. That's kind of cool for me. But the Kershaws are very committed to kids. So we've got some neat things coming up. But I don't know what the future holds. My goal is to double the number of kids that we're helping, and we're going to be creative this fall in finding ways to reach kids in a way that is safe and doesn't put anybody at risk, but still gets kids what they need. They always say never let a good crisis go to waste. So that's how we're trying to attack this is, okay, what can we shake up and do differently?
Absolutely wonderful. I just took a look here and I realized yet again, I don't know what it is. It's been an hour and I'm sorry because I know when I was talking to your PR lady, she was like 45 minutes, so I apologize. I went a little bit over, but that happens all the time.
I love
my
talking
show,
to you. Thank you. This has been fun.
Oh, gosh. Maybe you could call my significant other and remind him of that. I'm always telling him, I'm like, aren't you just a joy to talk to? I'm kidding. But I always
he's
find
Italian too, so I'd love to talk to him.
He is Italian. Well, he is. He's just. Oh gosh, I'm blushing on the phone. Okay, enough about him because I was just raving about him earlier. But we're on my show right now.
That's so sweet.
No, it's quite. I give him a lot of crap, and I talk about him all of the time in the best way possible. I'm so very blessed. It's not everyone who gets an opportunity to work with their best friend, to be with their best friend and the person that they trust, and he's a phenomenal individual. He really has changed my life 150-fold, and so I'm very blessed in that regard. I think we all should be. Well, it only took 50 years to find him, so we'll see. But no, I'm very fortunate and very blessed with that as far as that goes. But no, you were just fascinating. And we didn't start on time. So in all fairness, we really didn't start on time. And I don't know why, but you got cut off, but we managed to do it.
We got lost.
Yeah, no kidding. I just have a few quick things that we have to go through. Let me just tell you this much to anybody who's listening in. As I always say, usually about 2 hours after the show gets finished, it becomes an archived episode. So what will happen is I'll send it off to you, the final version. It also goes on my YouTube channel, and so it's on both different places. So you get a copy of that. I'm going to read off the places I found you at. If I've missed anything, just let me know. Again, we were talking today to the absolutely amazing hero herself, Amy Fass, who is the executive director and CEO of Shoes That Fit, which is a California nonprofit. The website itself is shoesthatfit.org. They are also on all three mediums, meaning Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, under the title Shoes That Fit Charity. They are also on LinkedIn, and they are also on YouTube. You can also go back and look at People Magazine, Huffington Post, The Times Daily, Inland Empire Magazine, and about 75 other places that I haven't been, by the way. Any other places where people can find you?
Call our office or visit our website. That's really the easiest way to reach us. And call us if you have any questions, if you're interested but just want to know more about us. If you want to check us out more, just reach out to us. We love hearing from people, and we would love to help kids in your community.
Oh, gosh, listen to that. Now, the last thing I get to do on my show, which is the only part of my show that isn't scripted, is I get to tell you what I think of you. I do this because I am by nature a journalist, so everybody expects me to be prepared, which I am usually. Hopefully I've done you justice. But this last part is only done because of the fact that I think people should know what my impressions are of them that are not scripted.
Oh,
I think
okay.
it's very important. So I'll give you my 60-second rendition of you, and hopefully, hopefully, like I said, I've done you justice. These are my impressions of you, young lady. One of the things that I knew that I would like about you from the get-go wasn't the fact that a publicist told me that you would be a lovely and enchanting interview. I figured that out the very first time I looked at your face, and then the second time when I decided to research you for the last 24 hours or so. What I came to find out is a resounding theme while I was researching you, and that theme came down to humanity. You have a very elevated respect and regard for overall humanity. That is a quality that I only find in probably 1/3 of the people that I ever come across professionally. It's very sad to say. I love everyone that I interview, but not everyone has the same dedication and has the same desired need, and it is a need, I believe, for you to get up in the morning and to touch the life of another person. That is something that I do all of the time for my mediums. However, I don't view it as such. The fact that you refuse to see yourself as a hero is evidence enough for me that, you know, as much as I don't always like to bring spirituality into it, I've said many times that God brings me people for a reason, sometimes to remind me, sometimes to really put me in check, and sometimes to give me a better respect for what surrounds me. I'm so blessed that I get the opportunity to show people, even though people listening might think this is about shoes, it isn't. It's about the human spirit, and enlightening and engaging with people who have far less and make them feel like they have everything the minute you walk into their life. So, to the millions of people that I know you will help eventually, my thanks from me to you for everything that you do all year round at your organization and as a human being. That's what I think.
Oh, thank you, Cindy.
Okay.
I feel really touched by that. That's really sweet.
Very true.
I hope I
too.
can live
and
up
it's not
to it.
scripted, so it's honest. No, you already have. That's just the
Yeah.
point. I'm just reminding you so that you remind yourself. You didn't really need to hear me say it. I'm just reminding you. I'm kind of a vessel, too. That's what my show and everything that I do is all about. But, yes, so those are my thoughts and my impressions. And more importantly, if you ever need anything or if you need more exposure or whatever have you, I'm right here. You know how to find me.
Oh, thank you. I will take you up on that.
Of course. Oh, absolutely. I count on it all the time. I'm constantly telling people, like, you really need to come and visit me because it's important. And I think that they forget the fact that I'm here. But you know what? Feel free to call upon me anytime you wish. But, yes, it's been absolutely lovely.
I'm going to take you up on that. Oh, it's been wonderful. Thank you.
Oh, of course. No problem at all whatsoever. And definitely, like I said, do stay in touch with me. I'll make sure I get you the stuff sent over, and it's just been lovely. Thank you for coming to visit me.
Oh, thank you. What a lovely opportunity. I really feel special. Thank you.
Oh, goodness. Thank you so much. And I'll be sure to check on you as well. And enjoy the rest of your day, dear. All right, Amy.
Thank
take care.
you. Okay.
Sure. Bye. Okay, folks, that was the beautiful and talented Amy Fass, lovely lady. And like I said, I cannot possibly thank her enough for her time. And I know that I ran late, but what's new, I'm always running late. One more reminder to everybody, Amy Fass is her name. The name of the nonprofit is called Shoes That Fit. They are obviously located in the California area. You heard her and I both reiterate the same sentiments. Feel free to buy something off the website. If you're in a position and you own a business, feel free to become a corporate sponsor. If you feel strongly about it, throw them a little money your way as it relates to estate planning. And more importantly, they have got the August drive coming up, as she mentioned. The website, again, is shoesthatfit.org. And on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, same handle, which is Shoes That Fit Charity. They are also on YouTube, LinkedIn. As she said, just give her a call. You can see that clearly she's just a wonderful person. And I don't want to forget, last but not least, Lisa Kaufman with HD Pink PR. Her and I have not worked together before. This is actually the very first time. So, Lisa, from me to you, what I can say is this much. I am pleasantly surprised. I'm always so delighted when people come to me and they have a new client or they have somebody I've never met before and come to me and pitch me. Pleasantly surprised. So if you folks are looking for absolutely wonderful people who are professional and on the ball, hdpink.com is the name of their organization. So thank you, my dear, so much for setting up this interview. That does it for me for this week. Friday the kids come home. This weekend the magazine comes out. So much to do today. So again, I just want to say to everybody, one, thanks so much for sticking in here and coming back and being my audience after this long hiatus. Number two, I'll be back on here next week. If you can afford to get the magazine, I strongly encourage you to. Like I said, it'll be a wonderful edition with all sorts of great people to spotlight. Understand completely if you can't. We're all just trying to survive, basically, at this moment. So, yeah, again, my thanks to everybody. And my last item here really is just to all the people in the last 24 hours or so and in general that have been checking on me or making their presence known. It matters, and I don't not notice it. It's important, and I appreciate it. I am not usually this forthcoming, but clearly I'm not as good of a place as I'd like to be. So just stick around. I appreciate it, and keep those messages coming because I guess I kind of need a reminder like every other human being that I matter. So I appreciate it. You guys have a wonderful afternoon, and we'll talk to you next week. Enjoy your weekend.